Anna, we can wait a minute and then you can take the floor.
And how does it work? We are doing a last-minute test for a second in the audio in this room while we wait for more people to join. Okay, just to understand if you can hear me, or if it's too... Lola, can you hear
Yes,
Andrea Lerust?
we can hear you, Andrea.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will be speaking from the same mic that we have in the room.
Perfect.
So good morning, everybody. I will get the webinar started as while we wait for some more people to join. So welcome today, and just to introduce myself, I'm Anna Barbieri, team leader in charge of Erasmus Plus and Apprenticeships in the unit in charge of vocational education and training in the European Commission in DG Employment. I'm here with my colleagues working on apprenticeships and our contractor Ecoris, who will support me in moderating this session today. Welcome everybody to the webinar From Gender Stereotypes to Opportunities. We will focus on inclusive apprenticeships in STEM. And today we will explore some data from research, some real-life experiences, practical approaches that make apprenticeships more inclusive, and in particular in the STEM field. Indeed, gender stereotypes still shapes education and training and career choices. And in particular, it is important to mention that still today, women remain underrepresented in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics skills, while men, on their side, are scarce in other fields like education and care. So before starting the webinar, maybe we go to the technical information, the housekeeping rules. So we kindly ask you to keep your microphone and camera always turned off to ensure that the webinar runs smoothly and we don't interrupt our speakers. This session wants to be interactive, so use the chat for questions, for comments during the event. We will ask the speakers to reply in the chat, and we will have a session at the end also for question and answer, where we will look to your questions that have remained unanswered during the webinar. So also note that this event has been recorded. First thing, for those that are not familiar with the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, I would like to start from that to explain that the webinar is being done in the framework of this alliance. The Alliance for Apprenticeships exists since 2013, and it wants to promote the quality, the offer, and the image of apprenticeships and the learning mobility of apprentices. It covers authorities from 43 countries, so it goes much beyond the European Union, and also organizations like vet providers, businesses, local authorities, research, and other networks or umbrella organizations are also part of the alliance. And in that sense, we have more than 500 members of the alliance. Under the EAFA, we organize sets of events in person or webinars like today. And we also develop knowledge tools like fact sheets and toolkits. So I will say a bit more about that at the end of the webinar. We can go to the agenda for today's webinar, just to give you a little glimpse. So we will have a thematic introduction that will provide you the policy context for the webinar. What is the work that we are doing at European level on this topic? Then we will have some very short testimonials from kind of elevator pitch from some organizations that are working and being confronted every day with the topic of gender stereotypes in STEM. Then we will have some distinguished speakers also for some presentations, and we will have some discussions, and also, as I said, an interactive part with questions and answers that you can put in the chat. Maybe before we start then with the agenda of today, I would still like to have a little word cloud that can be launched by my colleagues from ECORIS. So because we would like to hear from you, what comes to your mind when you think of gender stereotypes in apprenticeships? So I'll wait that the information comes. I remind you that you will need to, so if you participate, you will also be able to see the results that will appear. So the word cloud is not there. This is the poll, I think. We have a poll later, but there would be a word cloud now, if this is possible, about the question that I said. Otherwise, if it's not possible to do the word cloud, then we pass already to the next step. Yeah, now I see the word cloud. So what comes to your mind when you think of gender stereotypes in apprenticeships? Put a keyword maybe for that. Not sure if it is an easy question to start our webinar with, but I count on you. I don't see the results of the poll, or at least not from the participants. So each of you, this is important also to know that you should see a pop-up on your screens when you want to reply to this, because we will have a few of these occasions. And then just to see, otherwise, for the moment, I will move, just also being mindful of time, I will move to the next one, and I will see with ECORIS if we can put the results up at another moment, because then we can start with the first part of the agenda, the thematic introduction. So I will give now the floor to Andrea Lerust, Deputy Head of Unit of Vocational Education and Training Unit at DG Employment in the European Commission. Andrea, as I said earlier, she will give us a little introduction on the European perspective on the policy developments in the field of gender stereotypes and STEM, with some data and some trends, also connecting to the broader initiatives at European level in the field of skills. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can hear me well.
You can go ahead.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. So also warm welcome from my side to this webinar on gender stereotypes, from gender stereotypes to opportunities, inclusive apprenticeships in STEM. Let me start with a small anecdote. A couple of weeks ago, there was the Euroskills competition in Denmark. Our EVP Minzato has also attended and met with a group of young women that were car mechanics. And yeah, it was quite funny. Our EVP learned how to change a tire. There's a nice video about it. But what really struck me were the stories that these young women shared about their experiences as wet learners. They told that right from the start, they needed to have a lot of courage to just defend their choice, because their teachers and also career counselors were not exactly supported. And then even more, as one of them explained, even during the apprenticeship, there was this constant pressure to prove themselves, to show that they were not a liability, but an asset to the companies where they were doing their apprenticeships. Can you imagine? In 2025, young women are still being questioned about their place in the field like car mechanics just because of the gender. It's hard to believe, but unfortunately, gender stereotypes are still very much alive in spite of all the progress that we have made in gender equality. So these stereotypes, preconceived notions about what men and women should or should not do, they shape our expectations of individuals based solely on their gender. So the classic thing is that women are often expected to be nurturing, and while men are presumed to be analytical and or technical. These are ideas that are introduced at a very young age and continue to influence our educational and career paths, especially in vocational education and training, where the divide tends to be sharper than in general education. As a result, and the statistics show it very clearly, if you look at, for instance, at the ELA report on labor market shortages, that men tend to be overrepresented in fields such as engineering and construction, as Anna already said, while women are more commonly found in caregiving and service professions, including education, health, social care, and hospitality. The underrepresentation of girls and women in STEM, so these fields like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, is particularly dramatic because these fields not only offer higher salaries, but they also open the door to some of the most exciting and innovative careers of the future. But it's not only that a few women choose these fields for their training, the dropout rates are also very high. As you could see from the example of the car mechanics from the Euroskills competition, female vet learners often feel that they constantly need to prove themselves. And female apprentices often face biases or even microaggressions, things like comments like, "You're pretty good for a girl." And this means that today, STEM occupations remain largely dominated by men. What we need to understand is that this is not just a matter of fairness, it's also a matter of opportunity, because these gendered patterns not only limit opportunities for both women and men, they also reinforce harmful stereotypes. So we're talking about a vicious circle here. They perpetuate inequality and hold back talent that is desperately needed by Europe's economy and society. Imagine the kind of innovation we are missing out on when talented women are discouraged from entering STEM fields, or when men are steered away from careers in caregiving. We lose diversity, creativity, and ultimately competitiveness. The Union of Skills Communication, adopted by the European Commission in March 2025, recognizes that these gender gaps are an important issue for our European labour market and especially our innovative capacity. For those that are not so familiar with the European initiatives, the Union of Skills is a holistic strategy that aims at empowering people across the EU with the skills that they need to succeed in life, both from a professional and a personal point of view. It's an action plan and it has a high number of actions, 40. And I would only like to mention two of them here. One is the EU VET strategy that we hope to adopt around mid-2026. We expect VET attractiveness to be a focus, including addressing gender stereotypes. And another action of the Union of Skills is the STEM Education Strategic Plan that was adopted in March this year together with the Union of Skills. And as part of the STEM Education Strategic Plan, the Commission has proposed several targets on enrollment in STEM. So specifically, it's proposed that 45% of medium-level VET pupils should be enrolled in STEM fields by 2030. Is this realistic? We are now at 36%, or it was at least in 2023. So it's probably feasible if we make an effort. And there's also a female target. At least 1 out of every 4 STEM students should be female. Is this ambitious? It doesn't sound so ambitious, but we were in 2023 2023 at 15.4% only, so really low. So even the 1 out of 4 is quite an ambitious target. Now, the STEM Education Strategic Plan has as one of its objectives to train 1 million girls and women in STEM field by 2028. This is the so-called Go STEM initiative, and you also have on your agenda for today an intervention about this. The Union of Skills also recognizes the crucial role of the European Alliance for Apprenticeships in supporting high-quality inclusive apprenticeships across Europe. EAFE will contribute to increasing the offer of apprenticeships in STEM fields to girls and women in the framework of this Girls Go STEM initiative that I mentioned, and it also promotes gender equality and social inclusion alongside digital and green transitions. EAFE has already addressed gender stereotypes through live discussions in 2021, and of course there's the dedicated community on social inclusion and gender equality. I would also like to mention more recently in June 2027, EAFE launched a call for best practices to showcase inclusive apprenticeships, particularly featuring women in STEM fields. And we will publish these good practices in a compendium at the end of the year. It's the responsibility of all stakeholders to ensure that apprenticeships offer equal opportunities for women and men, creating inclusive pathways for growth, learning, and innovation. This webinar is part of this common effort, and I hope it will give you some inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea, for having set in the scene with the European perspective, sharing some data and mentioning initiatives, in particular, indeed, the Union of Skills and the role that the European Alliance for Apprenticeships plays in this initiative. I would like to ask Ekoris now we test again if the technicalities are good. Just one question from a poll that will be open for all the participants. Only the question one, in your country, gender stereotypes in apprenticeships are, and then there are some possible replies. So if Ekoris, let's see if it's possible, if Ekoris can launch only this first question, because we will go afterwards to the next one. So if you can launch it and we see if the participants can be there. So I see that some are already replying, I think. Let me see a little bit. I wait for another moment. And as I said to my colleague in Ekoris, we have these questions, and then I will go this one, and then I will go to the next part of our agenda. Sorry, no, can you go back to the previous one? So it's this one, yes. In your country, gender stereotypes in apprenticeships are, and then can you reply? So that I want to see, it would be interesting to see what is the importance of this webinar today. I think that I see on my screen that the one that is receiving most replies is still very strong in most sectors. So let's see. While some say that it's slowly changing, even if still present, so it's a bit more positive for some of you, but I think that more than 50% are saying that it is still a big issue. So I'm very, let's say, very interested with these results, because then it shows that the webinar that we are holding today is very, very useful. And I really hope that the lineup of speakers that we have in this webinar will help you to find some solution, or also to see in some countries and some organizations that are managing to turn the trend and going towards more positive gender balance. So I will stop here with the poll, let's say, and I will go to the second part of our webinar, which is the testimonials. And as I was saying in the beginning, the speakers will touch upon anyway many of the of the elements that can show you, like concerning the reply to the previous question, that can show you things that can make the situation less strong and reach gender balance. So they will bring a bit of personal voices, short elevator pitches, and I know that it's not easy to condense all the work that they are doing every day in a very short intervention, so I thank them already immediately. We have 3 of them. I will introduce them one by one as I give them the floor. So I will start to ask Charlotte Otten to unmute herself and put her camera on. Charlotte is Head of Events and Marketing at Solar Power Europe. She will share examples of how the renewable energy sector is promoting gender inclusiveness, and in particularly the role of apprenticeships. And before I give you the floor, Charlotte, I would like to thank your organization, Solar Europe, for becoming a member of EAFA this year. Charlotte, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all see me and hear me. So my name is Charlotte Otten. I'm the Head of Events and Marketing at Solar Power Europe. And I'm also a very proud member of the Diversity, Inclusion and Equity team. So it's a great pleasure to be here today and to discuss this with all of you. So for the ones who might not know us, Solar Power Europe is the voice of solar industry in Europe, and we represent over 300 organizations across the entire solar value chain, and our mission is to make solar the leading energy source by 2030. So when it comes more to gender diversity, which is why we gathered here today, solar is already leading the way. So according to IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, women make up around 40% of the solar workforce, which is a lot and is more than any other energy sector. However, here's the catch, only 17% of senior management roles are held by women. So there's clearly work to do on that. And we at Solar Power Europe are committed to change that. So what we do in a very short time, as I've been asked to, we share success stories of women leaders. We promote inclusive hiring practices, and we try to make sure that all our events and panels are as gender balanced as possible. And regarding internally, we are also quite a gender balanced team. So now we around 53 staff members, and 57% of them are women. So a few more women there. And a few years ago, we launched our diversity awards. So at first, it started with gender awards only. And they aim to celebrate initiative and promote diversity in the solar sector. Now we decided to expand it to the entire diversity, inclusion, and equity, because we've had a request from members and also from the sector as a whole to include more than gender. And one of this year's finalists who won bronze was WISE. So it's Women in Energy Ireland, and they were running a workshop to equip women with technical knowledge and soft skills needed to thrive in the solar industry. So we felt that was very interesting and perhaps relevant for some of you who wants to have a look at that. But yes, looking ahead, we want to make sure that we're building a solar sector that truly reflects diversity of the society itself. So it's very important for us. And we invite everyone to join us in this mission. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Indeed, I capture from your introduction that there are some positive development in the green transition sector, let's say, but maybe some work needs to be done still in terms of participation of women in senior management positions. So thank you very much for this very short but very interesting intervention. We have a second testimonial. I will ask Aidan Kenny to put on his camera and his microphone. Aidan Kenny is Head of Mechanical Engineering Apprenticeships at the Technological University of Dublin. He will tell us about one initiative called Try a Trade. And very interesting for the participants today, we are going to publish, as the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, an article on our website on this organization. So you can learn more about Technological University Dublin on our website. So Aidan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you to the European Alliance of Apprenticeship for organising this webinar. So I'm from the Technological University Dublin, and I'm just going to give a quick snapshot of apprenticeship in Ireland, and then our programme, our access to apprenticeship programme and the outreach activities. So within Ireland, currently in the apprenticeship system, there's 30,000 apprentices. 24,000 of them are from craft-based apprenticeships, so that's electrical, bricklaying, plumbing, refrigeration, and so forth. And then 5,000 are from new consortium-led apprenticeship. If we look in terms of gender breakdown, in the craft-based apprenticeship, there's only 600 female apprentices out of 24. And in the new consortium-based apprenticeships, there's 2,300 female apprentices out of 5,000. So the new consortium apprentices seem to be attracting females. But the STEM areas, engineering, construction, and so forth, doesn't seem to be attracting young females. Separately, these are for people who got apprenticeship, but separately, there's a large group of disadvantaged young people who may be early school leavers who don't have an opportunity to become apprentices. So we have a program called Access to Apprenticeship that builds up employability skills for young disadvantaged people, with a few to giving them opportunities to become apprentices. A key part of that program is linking in with primary schools, secondary schools, organisations and community groups. We do this through different activities, through Try a Trade, through Switch On Apprenticeship. For primary schools specifically, we have specialised bricks and different tools that primary school children can use. And a lot of the primary school children are females. So they come in at an early age into the university and try different trades. The Pacific Try a Trade is for secondary schools, and that's where they move on to the normal size equipment and they'll try different trades in the university. But we also think that having the involvement of parents and support groups is really important. So we organise information events for parents to come in and see what an apprenticeship is, meet apprentices in their workshops and talk to them so they can advise their children on career opportunities in apprenticeship, and these are quality career opportunities. I think I'm just running out of time.
But thank you anyway, Aidan. Very, very interesting. You did it perfectly. It was very good, and I know that it is a big challenge to put a lot of information on what you do into a very short slot. So also from you, I think that your intervention is very interesting for those that have replied to the poll that in their country still there are strong issues with gender stereotypes. Also, you have shown how a bit a positive approach, a trend, and where not fully positive, like you were mentioning that women are less present in the STEM field. You show how these can be countered and the efforts that can be made practically to reach that. So thank you very much. And I would go to the next testimonial. I would ask Christian Jensen to put on his camera and his microphone. Christian is the project manager at Divers. He will present their initiative called Boss Ladies. Christian will showcase how this initiative can support women entering traditionally male-dominated sectors through mentoring, networking, and training. Christian, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Anna, and thank you for the invitation to speak here. Yeah, my name is Christian, and I'm a project manager at Divers. Divers is Danish for diverse, as maybe you guessed by now. We are a Danish NGO located in Copenhagen, and we are working with women and gender minorities in traditional male-dominated fields, especially in construction and the maritime sector. So the classic trades, if you can say that. Our biggest project is called Boss Ladies, which has been going on for 8 years now. The center of Boss Ladies is our so-called Ambassador Corps, which is a network for girls, women, and gender minorities in the skilled trades, in the skilled craft. In Denmark, we have around 500 active members of this, and we recently started a European sister network, currently with 15 members. I think maybe these were the ones that Andrea met at Euroskills in Herning. Maybe. We were very much there. Yeah. And as Andrea also said, like starting at the vet school in these trades and also later during the apprenticeship, these women face a lot of gendered obstacles. They are the only women in the classes, and the companies often, they express feelings of loneliness, of isolation, and at worst, they also quite often do experience like sexual harassment. With Boss Ladies, we have established a network where these women in the trades can share their experiences, they can help each other, share their passion. We create social events and teach them how to use their voice to create a lasting cultural change. We also help them find apprenticeships at companies we trust and know, and we also counsel them in difficult matters at the schools and companies. And we work with them to create this cultural change. For example, like we use their voices at workshops, courses, communication, talks, at Euroskills, for example, because we know authentic storytelling is a powerful tool to create cultural change. They are the role models and show the next generation that you can look and be a bit different from like the stereotypical tradesperson. And we also want to show that there is actually room for them in the construction sector. So thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Christian. And thank you also for sharing this important message of role models. I think also, and as it has been said by Andrea Lerust, it is really a powerful element. So thank you very much for that. Thank you also to all of you, actually, to Charlotte, to Aidan, to Christian, for sharing these inspiring examples. I think with the mention of awards, the mention of role models, and the mention of taster for students that have to choose their career path and their study path, you have really touched upon some of the interesting solutions and approaches that can be taken. So don't leave us, stay with us until the end. I will ask the participants that have been inspired by your interventions to put their questions or messages in the chat. And please, Charlotte, Aidan, and Christian, reply in the chat to the extent possible, and then we see in the end if there is a little bit of time of having some time also for some oral replies. So I would go now, I think, to the next session that we have prepared for you. So we will go on with some presentations by some speakers that come from diverse horizons, so that we ensure that in the timing of this 1 hour and a half of the webinar, we really give you rich information and the diversity also of perspective. So we are honored to have with us three very good speakers, very good stakeholders that work very actively to promote gender inclusive apprenticeships and to tackle gender stereotypes. So I would like to introduce them, and I will ask them to turn their camera on. We have with us Isabelle Mouyour, who is head of department at BIBB, the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training. She will present some key findings from some research work that they have done on gender gaps in STEM, and in particular in apprenticeships and the role of women in technical education. We are very happy to have with us also Natalia Molina Calavita. She is education project specialist and coordinator of the Girls Go STEM initiative, which has been mentioned also by Andrea Lerust. And she leads Natalia leads partnerships and fundraising under this initiative. She will explain to us what Girls Go STEM is. This is led by the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, the EIT, and it is coordinated in particular by EIT Raw Materials. Then the last speaker we have with us is Eva Fabri. She's the founder and director of European Center for Women and Technologies, who is a partner in the Erasmus Plus funded ECOVEN project. This is a Centers of Vocational Excellence project funded under Erasmus Plus. She will highlight successful approaches to counter gender stereotypes in technology related in particular to VET and microelectronics. And it is very important to make this connection from policy from project to policy. It is a topic that is very close to my heart. So thank you, Eva, also for being with us. So I will taking time, looking at time, I will give the floor maybe to the first speaker, Isabel from BIBB. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Dear Anna, dear colleagues, thank you for the invitation. It's a challenge in a few minutes to present what we are doing. I use research works from colleagues at PIBB. So if I want to draw the picture, we know that there is a need for skilled workforce, especially in STEM occupations, with about 500,000 vacancies as of March 2024. And we know that overall the STEM apprenticeship contracts, please next slide, STEM apprenticeship contracts are increasing, and they made in 2022 about a third of all new contracts. If you see those positive trends, let's say, nevertheless, the increase of female share in STEM apprenticeship occupation is not growing that much. We find a high proportion of women in specific occupations like health technologies or biological laboratory technician activities. We found a very small share of women in other professions leading to production engineering or computer sciences. If the next slide, please. If you look at the theoretical background or the framework of looking for explanations why the share of women and female in those apprenticeships does not increase that much, you find three main categories of explanations. One linked to the individual levels, the idea about one's own ability, the career and life goals of individuals, vocational interest. You'll find also explanation links to external or social constraints, such as what's happening in school, in classroom, what are the influence by significant others like the peers of the family. And a large part of the explanations are linked to career path, as illustrated before in the testimonials, like how are recruiting taking place? What are the expectations on professional competence and performance? How are the occupations structured in companies? And of course, what happens in terms of professional pulling out? So you have to take all this in mind when we look together at the next slide. Yes. Because those initiatives might not be new to you, but they have been well summed up by the National MINT Forum in Germany, which is an initiative started 2012 by employers organization, and meanwhile is involving a lot of stakeholders of the civil society, and they map what can be done in five main blocks. What happens at school, what happens in extracurricular learning venues, such as cities and such as skills competition, as mentioned before. Also, what happens in terms of VET and study guidance, which is interesting that they link both guidance in vet and guidance in higher education, and of course, what happens in terms of peers and influential groups. All the initiatives, according to them, and I quite agree with this approach, could be linked in those 5 main blocks of possible activities. What happened now, if we look more in details in some of those items, next slide, please. Colleagues were looking at what happens in secondary school in Germany, taking 16,000 ninth graders for their survey. And they find that the gender gap in students' occupational expectations is larger in classroom where the confidence in mathematical and high aspiration towards STEM is existing. So the more you believe that you are good at mathematics, good at STEMs, the more you would have, the greater the gap would be in terms of occupational expectations towards STEM. If it is so that in classroom with a pronounced STEM-related classroom climate, then the woman, the female student, would have less expectations to work in a STEM career. So you already find that the classroom context, not the results of the study of the examination, but the classroom context has already a major impact on expectations of women toward STEM occupations. If we look now on how could we counteract those expectations, next slide, please. Then you find a scheme which is familiar to us now after the testimonial from Denmark, among others, that vocational role models are very important in that term. And they may break the gender perception. In Germany, we have a scheme called VET ambassadors, who are aiming at stimulating social identification processes and address the young people's need for social approval. So the colleagues run an intervention study in the field of IT profession, and you find, if you look at the small graph on the slide, that the intervention of VET ambassadors, as I say here in IT profession, have a great positive impact on women occupational knowledge after the intervention, but also in terms of career preferences after the intervention. Career preferences mean that after the intervention, women, girls would say, I would like to do either an internship or an apprenticeship, or would like to work as an IT specialist. So you see that those kind of skills, those kinds of intervention initiatives have a positive impact on the aspiration of women towards, in that case, IT profession. Next slide, please. If we continue on the professional pathway perspective, we also find, of course, that once women have position in that kind of fields, we nevertheless have to consider how they deal, how their career is going to evolve in the company. And here again, we have issues of stereotyping and discrimination. So this is something which also should be taken into account in the initiative towards gender balance in STEM profession. Thank you very much for your attention. The next slide was a thank you slide.
Thank you very much, Isabel. I know that you have prepared some extra slides to give some more information to the participant, and the slides, I take the opportunity to mention that, will be shared together with the recording of the meeting, and also together with an article summarizing the results of the webinar. So thank you again, Isabel, for your rich information that you have shared with us. I think the research is very interesting, in particular, this initiative that you mentioned of the VET ambassadors, that it proves let's say, the impact and how it can give some indications also to others on how things can be tackled. So thank you very much. I will proceed now with the next speaker. I will ask Natalia Molina Calavita to take the floor. Thank you very much. And you can put on your, yes, your camera is already on. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everyone for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here representing Girls Go STEM. So when we start the presentation, the next slide, please. I'm going to explain a little bit. We have a completely new name, so we changed our name last week in our annual event. So I'm here representing Girls Go STEM. Basically, we are part of the European EIT, which is the Institute of European and Technology, and then we are the Girls Go STEM part of the community. Next slide, please. And I'm going to explain a little bit more on the overview of the project. As I was saying, Girls Go STEM, it was formerly known as Girls Go Circular before. We changed a week ago the name. It's an initiative that it was born in 2020, and we are part of the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, supported by the European Commission. So far, we trained more than 70,000 girls. We are training schoolgirls aged 14 to 19 in digital green and entrepreneurial skills all over Europe. In 2025, the initiative became part of the European Commission Union of Skills, the framework that the colleagues were talking about before, connecting education, training, research and innovation, strengthening the European talent base and the green and digital transition. Obviously, we are part of the bigger project that is to train in between 2026 and 2028 to train part of the million female training in STEM by 2028, and our goal is to train 100,000 girls across Europe. Our initiative basically promotes gender balance in STEM, and also this expansion means that we're going to be reaching out to way more pet schools as well for a stronger industrial partnership. And I'm going to, in the next slides, I will be explaining more about our impact and about our content. So here's an overview of the project and the numbers that we have so far. We have a free learning platform that is translated in more than 28 different languages. We are present in more than 35 European countries. So far we count more than 100,000 user registers. We train in between boys and girls more than almost 90,000 students. We are also working with teachers and educators through our platform, and we are partnering with schools and institutions, private and the public sector. We have more than 1,000 partnerships. This is a little bit on the research as well, on the social media and the impact that we have. Next slide, please. This is a little bit on our impact, because obviously we cannot consider that a student is going to choose a career or an education in STEM only because he's doing some program like our program. So the measure, and I'm sorry for the mix here, I'm seeing that maybe it was some problem passing to PowerPoint. We are doing some surveys, which for us is super important to understand as well, because our objective as well is to give confidence to the students, to the girls, to be more interested in the aspect of STEM careers and education. So we are seeing that there is an increase in the interest in the field of circular economy. That is something that maybe when we were in school, there's something that was not a topic to discuss about. They also feel more confidence about real world situation and problems. They're also developing more digital entrepreneurial skills. And they improve this. Sometimes in school is hard to tag as well. And many of our students are saying that they would like to complete one of the more modules that we have, the courses. Next slide. Here as well is an overview of the content. So as I was saying, the platform that we have is completely for free. Everybody can access. School, they have a special code to access, so we can basically check the data from where the school is connecting from. This is you can have an overview of the courses without needing to register in our website if you scan the QR code. Just to give you as well an overview of the learning approach that we have, is a hand-on project that we have a very active learning. It's not much like theoretical. It's very practical as well, with real work cases. One of the topics that we are targeting in these 20 courses that we have is artificial intelligence, of course, circular economy, sustainability. We're talking about robotic. We're talking about fashion, creative innovation. And as well, since last year, we have an ambassador program. This year, we have 11 students from 11 different countries who are representing our initiative in their country, in their community, and we would like to get involved as well to get some basically feedback from the students. Part of the ambassador program is as well to represent the initiative and events. So sometimes we let them be the one who are explaining about the initiative, which we always believe that it makes a way more bigger impact. Next slide, please. And then teacher courses is something that we launched this year as well. We definitely understand the big difference in between the teachers who can have a training in STEM and the one who don't have any gender training as well. So we're launching 1 hour expert-led content for teachers as well for free. So far we have the ones who are only translated in English for now, but we are planning to this year to have them in Greek, Estonian, Lithuanian, Portuguese, Serbia, Romanian, Spanish, Turkish, and Ukrainian. As I was saying, it's a ready-to-use lesson and activities always with allowing the EU frameworks. And then we also have a teacher ambassador program that is more approach the training approach, and we have mentoring and peer learning opportunity for them. And sometimes we're going to try to organize as well activities where they can meet in person in the different countries, because we have, again, 10 teachers from 10 different countries. The next slide. So this is a little bit an overview of the project, and this is our contact details.
Thank you very much, Natalia, for explaining to us the Girl Go STEM initiative. As it has been mentioned in the beginning, also the European Alliance for Apprenticeships is contributing to this initiative, and we will also increase the offer of apprenticeships for girls and women in the STEM fields. So thank you very much also, Natalia, for having become this year a member of the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. So very, very happy to work together in the future. What you presented was very good. I think that one word that I see coming up as a red line or a wire through the intervention is indeed the one on ambassadors. And also thank you very much for the content that is available for free and that you have presented to us. So thanks again. I think now we will move to our next speaker, Eva. I've already presented you in the beginning, and I know that you will give us some glimpse from various projects that the European Center for Women and Technology has been working on. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and I will try to focus on ECOVEM, but indeed like to share also briefly about 2 other projects. European Center for Women and Technology is putting a lot of emphasis naturally on the European skills agenda, and we focus on 4 actions, Pact for Skills, where we are involved in 2 of the pacts, Pacts for Skills for Digital and Pact for Skills for Microelectronics. On Action 7, increasing STEM graduates and fostering entrepreneurial and transversal skills. Action 8, Skills for Life, tools and initiatives to support people in their lifelong learning, and Action 10, European approach to micro-credentials. Between 2017 and 2025, we have been involved in 3 projects, of which Two were large-scale projects and lasting 4 years. And we have worked with altogether 34 partners from 21 countries, representing all stakeholder groups, key VET players, leading businesses, national and regional authorities, and organizations working with social inclusion and integration, and with an overall budget of 10 million euro. There are very many high quality deliverables presented in this project, so we strongly believe that we have a lot to share. Our focus in the work done in this area is actually addressing the reinforcement between the skills gaps and the gender gap. And without going into detail, I would like to stress just 3 elements in regard to how the gender gap fuels the skill gap, namely occupational segregation, mismatched skills and credentials, and lack of lifelong learning. And in regard to how the skills gap fuels the gender gap, we focus on 3 areas: underutilization of talent, lower earnings, and the persistence of stereotypes. Next slide, please. The VICE project, which we had between 2017 and 19, was, I would say, the most value for money, as we just had 4 partner countries, UK, Ireland, University of Münster from Germany, and our own organization. And the deliverables from this project are actually WISE methodology, which presents the state of the art in regard to skill, competences, and knowledge, training programs, policies and government interventions, and supporting ecosystems in the 4 countries, with more than 150 good examples. And this is a model that has been developed by the University of Münster and could be scaled up and presented for all European countries. They provide a perfect state-of-the-art description in regard to strategic alliances on national and regional level, a whole set of open educational resources, online learning and knowledge exchange platform, and a model for learning placement frameworks. And what is even more important, that there is a full set of tools for example, evaluations and scaling up of all these deliverables. Next slide, please. The other project we would have liked to mention today is Women for IT. Here we believe that the fact that the project has been piloted into 7 countries and more than 700 women have been enrolled for new digital jobs of the future is of great added value. And this is combined with support structures for mentoring, for focus groups, for role models, which several of my other colleagues have also mentioned, and awards for employers, and a whole set of tools, again, like employment toolkits, both for employers, but also for the women taking the new digital jobs of the future, and a whole set of training roadmaps. Here, another key indicator which we believe of great value is that of the employers we have been in contact with, which is around a bit more than 300, frankly speaking, 75% of the women are still employed in the job placements provided. Sorry, no, you disappeared, and I would like to have next slide. In regard to ECOVEM, I think this is then the culmination of supporting women in STEM apprenticeships and in the microelectronic sector. In this framework, we have managed to develop a role model database for women in microelectronics and diverse equity and inclusion lighthouse for the sector. And again, in this context, the most important added value is the collaboration between the VET sector, the key industry stakeholders, and the organizations of organizations of social inclusion and reintegrations on top of the social actors. Next slide, please. And this is the final one. As an outcome of the ECOVEM project, a new alliance has been created, which is called the European Chips and Diversity Alliance, with 19 stakeholders. And here the focus is on diversity, equity, inclusion, and not just as a trend, but as a growth strategy generating factor. And we believe that by joining the different key players of the different ecosystems, which ECWT is prioritizing, the list of sectoral jobs, as you see, is increasing, and all activities are going to be focused. And what we have introduced just 11th of October is a new European role model database presenting all best practices. Thank you for me. That's it. Final word.
Thank you very much, Eva. Indeed, very good that you have explained how projects can be linked to policy and to initiatives like the European Alliance for Apprenticeships that you have mentioned. You mentioned also the Pact for Skills and the other initiative also that is mentioned in this slide, and also for mentioning that there sometimes projects have the potential to be scaled up so that they can have a real impact at VET system level or at education and training system level. Now we have done a little bit the tour of our three speakers. I would like to thank them all for these valuable contributions and for their insights. We come now to a part with more questions and answers. I know that some of you have been putting questions for the speakers in the chat, and some of the questions have also been replied already. Indeed, it's good now that we exchange, because it's important to see how different initiatives across Europe can be inspirational and can be good also for the perspective of the other participants that are with us today. So maybe I will start while more questions come in the chat. If this is the case, I will start first with some questions on my side for the speakers, and I will go to Isabel first. So a question for you. We have seen it also in the poll. We have touched upon this also through other speakers. And I think that it's very interesting for the participants to know from your perspective now, what are the key factors that discourage girls from choosing technical, professional pathways, despite the policy efforts and the practical efforts that organizations are doing over the years. Thank you, Isabel.
Yes, thank you for the question, Anna. I think stereotypes are very hard to break, as also mentioned by your colleague Anna in the introduction. And what I see is also the mix of level of problems to be addressed. So one is, of course, the information on STEM occupation. And for this, we have a growing numbers of websites, documents, brochure, everything you can find. I would nowadays also social media. But you think that the how to push, how to grab, how to grasp, how to overcome more on empowering girls into those professions, into being self-confidence in one's future, not the abilities, because we have seen them in classroom, they are given, but the fact that it is a job for me, it is a profession for me, it is a career for me. And I was presenting the last slide on career path, because then you see the contradiction. Maybe you have been empowering girls into STEM occupations, and you see that we have employers or representative in the room. Then you see that maybe employers are nevertheless using, I would not say old-fashioned, but I said it, ways of considering gender in recruitment practices and in the definition of career path. Maybe career paths are different between men and women, but it nevertheless should give them both the opportunity to make a living out of it. And I would come back to the issue of ambassadors, and you see, it's not the item I believe I have the abilities to learn were given by both gender and by girls before and after the intervention. The items were rather know about the profession, and the profession means career. It doesn't mean just the first step into the labor market, but maybe the second or the fourth steps after further training. And of course, the second item is, yes, I want to work as in that case, as a specialist. So I think this is really a build up the confidence, and you build up confidence with truth, with peers, with ambassadors, maybe other items the colleagues have also experienced in their project. And for us, of course, as let's say policy makers, would also be that we have the evidence of what works and what doesn't work, and how to meet the setting. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you, Isabel. I think you have been inspiring for the participants here, also for the employers, indeed. And maybe now I go to Eva. Eva, I have also a question that has come up to my mind while you were presenting. So you have explained the work that you do in STEM and gender through the 3 projects. So from your point of view, what would you suggest to policymakers? So for the, let's say, for the systemic change, because they are in charge in the end of making changes to the systems, for example, in terms of curricula, recruitment, company culture. So what is your perspective on that, and what would be needed for this systemic change to make STEM sectors generally inclusive for women?
Well, I would like to say that it's not just the content, but I think the scale of the initiatives and measures that the European Commission and the businesses are supporting is of utmost value. So we have had 3 projects. When you have a project of 5 million euro and 30-40 partners, then you can start to dream of making a bigger impact. And our conclusion is simply that today there are very many employers that are interested in experimenting with large-scale projects. So it would be most important to have an understanding for the fact that more large-scale projects are needed. And it's I wouldn't say waste of money, but almost a waste of money if we just run small scale projects in this agenda. And I would also like to add that making alliances between the different type of stakeholders is crucial, because then we can start to develop projects that are based on the needs of the employers, and not just based on the needs, but are monitored through the implementation and can be adjusted more and more to the real needs of the employers. And in the end of the day, that's generating future jobs and more growth for Europe.
Thank you very much, Eva. Very, very interesting. And indeed, you give me the opportunity to mention that the European Commission has launched the package of the next multi-annual financial framework starting in 2028. And under Erasmus Plus, which is the funding that you have used, I think, for most of the projects that you have mentioned. Under Erasmus Plus, the Commission has proposed an increase of 50%. So really to acknowledge the importance of the project and how they can have impact. And then coming back to your mention of large-scale project and small-scale project, from the point of view, as I mentioned in the beginning, I work on Erasmus Plus myself, so I think that indeed it's important to have these large-scale initiatives like the Blueprint, like the Centers of Vocational Excellence, your ECOVEM project, because they have really the capacity, they are showing over the years that they have the capacity to have this ambitious role of shaping or co-shaping with the policymaker the systems. But from my point of view, I would still underline also the importance of some smaller initiatives that allow smaller players who don't have the capacity to take up immediately big projects, also to get acquainted with funding opportunities. So I would say there is something good in everything. Thank you very much, but really very much thank you for your reply. I would have a question also for Natalia, because we have spoken a lot also of the barriers that exist, the difficulties for girls and women and the difficulty to achieve gender balance. But Natalia, from your point of view, what types of activities or approaches are most effective in breaking stereotypes?
Thank you, Anna, for your questions. There are two that are coming in my mind. I'm sure that there are like many, but I think there are two that, especially in our project, STEM is working very well. The first one would be giving the students real-world challenge, meaning connecting the STEM topic with what students can care about, let's say sustainability, fashion, AI, so they can gain confidence and the motivation to learn more. So we kind of smaller that bridge in between what is STEM and what is real is to be part of that. So we are giving them a more practical example, not only so text, not only so far away. We do that sometimes through hackathons and real life challenge. So they can understand STEM from another perspective, not something that is like very technical, very difficult, very male dominated, like engineer type of work. So how much STEM influence in our daily life, which is obviously nowadays everywhere. I remember that we have sometimes this discussion that like, I think AI now is what it used to be, the word internet, that at the beginning was like, oh, it's just internet, and now it's everywhere. And then AI is gonna happen the same. It's like, it's affecting almost all the sectors. And the second one, I will say, which is very important, and I think it's something that in many schools are already applying, and universities as well, is the mentoring and the visible female role models. which is crucial. Maybe as well when we were kids, when we were talking about engineer, first thing that came in our mind is a technical engineer who will be a man working with tools. And nowadays it can be a female working in an office, not necessarily be so technical. So to connect as well students and that they can learn from real cases, like real female working in tech, for example. We have a lot of women working in the tech field, startup, like big tech companies. And then, so they can really, I think that will also help them understand what is the career, because when you're talking to a teenager, and then you say, well, it's a mechanical engineer or chemistry, what is exactly is to be in that field? So they can take the decision to be working in that field or studying in that field more accessible.
Thank you very much, Natalia. And indeed, also this reply, I think, can be very inspiring for the participant today. I would propose, as we are heading towards the last part of our webinar, that maybe we launch a word cloud for our participants, and maybe we can comment also together. So if Ecoris could launch the word cloud, the question that I would like to come up on the screen, let's see if I'm lucky, would be what's the most important change needed to make apprenticeships more inclusive and gender balanced? So I will leave you the time to reply, dear participants, and also for the last part of the webinar, I will ask also to Aidan, Christian, and Charlotte to put up their cameras, because we will conclude together and we can have some still some little interventions before the end. So please put your replies. I'll try to reply myself, because I know that if I don't reply, I will not see the results of it. So okay, so I see that our participants have been really inspired by what has been said by the speakers. I see that role models are taking a predominant position. Sorry, I'm looking into another screen also at the same time. While you write, I will see what else is there. So ambassadors is coming up again, changing mindsets, changing the culture, indeed. So, yeah. So there is something, wait, it's moving again. Mentorship is also, in my view, very, very interesting. And indeed, I see that most of the actors come up like it is a joint work to be done together by policymakers, by individuals, by experts in career guidance. So very, very good. It's moving quite fast. So for this word cloud, so I will stop there for the moment, but just to kick into a last part of the webinar, as I was saying, in case you have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will give them to our speakers, both those that were in the beginning with us for the elevator pitch, and then the three presenters that gave us a more elaborated presentation. And maybe while we wait for that, I would like to know if among the speakers there is someone that has a question for your co-speakers. Would that be the case, maybe? In the meantime, I will ask Ekoris to take, if possible, to take away the slide of the question and answer session so the speakers are more visible, the participants are more visible. Voila. So maybe, am I right that I don't have, there are no pending questions in the chat to be replied? Just a second that I also check myself. Okay, because I don't think there are any, but maybe if I can go back and give some extra space to the three persons that did the elevator pitches, would one of you have one last message that you want to share with the participants? I don't know. Christian, you are my Chinese volunteer. I see you on my screen. I don't know if you want to kick off this last round, and other speakers as well. Please, if you wish, we have a few minutes to give you time for some last remarks. Christian?
But maybe I actually, because I was just sitting and thinking, maybe I have a question for the whole panel actually, because in Boss Ladies, we are working a lot with recruitment, as a lot of you, everyone is speaking about today, that of course it's important to recruit more girls and women into these fields. We also work a lot with like retention of them, because we know when they go to the vet school, when they get an apprenticeship in the construction sector, that often it's actually not really ready for them. And I think we have had some difficulties in how we find it easier to recruit women into these fields than to actually retain them there. At least that's what we see in Denmark. They have a way higher risk of dropping out of the construction professions after they come in. So if anyone has an insight into what you could do to retain them there, we are working with like a lot of Danish companies, like around 300 different companies, but it's extreme. It takes a lot of resources to make these cultural changes on a company basis. So if anyone has some insight, that's my question: what to do to actually retain the women and gender minorities in these fields?
Oh, thank you, Christian. So Isabel, Natalia, Eva, or the others who wants to take the floor, please raise your hand or just open your microphone. Natalia, please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have any data why they're leaving? I mean, if there is a question like an exit interview or something?
Yes, we do. Like, as I said, we have around these 500 ambassadors, and we speak with them every single day. Often they leave because they, as I said in my presentation, they don't really feel welcome in the sector. Like, remember, we work mostly with construction, so masonry, carpentry, electrician, and so on. But they feel that they're not really welcome. They feel overlooked by their teachers and employees. They do face quite a lot of sexual harassment at their workplaces and so on. So they feel that the sector is actually, it's kind of like a lot of the big companies are very vocal about they want more female employees, but when they actually get there and out in the fields, out on the building areas and so on, that it's not really where they feel welcome and so on. So they leave because they do not feel safe and they do not feel welcome there. That's what we experience. That's the stories we hear a lot. And yeah, we are working with companies like making policies about like sexism and sexual harassment, helping them getting these out to the people on the ground and so on. But it's extremely it's resourceful to do that on a company to company basis. We are trying to work with the workers organization, but I feel like this is one of the barriers that we have the hardest time with actually. Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying this. Maybe there is someone else. Aidan, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Yeah, just I think the relationship with employers is key to apprenticeship. And I think you're right, that continued relationship with employers and employers associations and also social partners, because together, education, employers and social partners working together, they can overcome gender discrimination. I think there's a lot of good policies and initiatives there, but as a higher education provider and as the Access program, we have developed really good relationships with quality employers, and the students that go and meet these quality employers, they go on work placements first, so they see it's a good fit, and that gives both the employer and the student an opportunity to see, well, can we work together? And then after that, they get the opportunity then to go on an apprenticeship. But the follow-up support needs to be there and needs to continue, because I don't think it's good enough to say okay, you've gone through the program now and goodbye. You know, it's a relationship, and particularly for a higher education institute and the European Commission's lifelong learning initiatives, that's what it is to us. It's someone that's going to come back to us later on to engage and further upskilling or engagement. So it's a lifetime kind of commitment that we're giving to these young people in terms of allowing them opportunities to come back and reskill and upskill. And if there is issues, that they can tell us, and we will politely talk to whoever it is, employers and social partners and so forth, with a view to develop what's the best solution to any issues that arise. But I don't think there's any simple, quick fix. I do think it's hard work, and as you say, it's continuous contact with employers and social partners. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I would like to give another minute or two. If someone else wants to share something, please go ahead. We are well on time for that. So in case you have something that you would like to share, otherwise I have a few comments also on my side, but I do not see that from the speakers any hands raised. So for the moment, I will thank you very much. Sorry. Yeah. So then so I continue with the final part of the webinar, and thank you very much to all of the speakers. Just a second, I've been told that there is a question. I see there is another COVE project that has put a question. Just a second. Maybe the question could be for us, but I will first write for the speakers. So if someone that is working with the AFA wants to reply, so the Win for SMEs project, which has also Ukrainian partners, is working on the topics of the webinar today, on apprenticeships in STEM, and the role of women in that. And they would like to know how EAFA, how the European Alliance for Apprenticeship could support such cross-sectoral approaches in after the end of the war. So if some of you that have been working with the EAFA wants to reply, because I think it is more interesting if it comes from the members of the Alliance, not from me, who is in charge of the initiative. I was wondering, because Aidan, I know that you have worked a lot with the European Alliance for Apprenticeship over the years.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key things is sharing knowledge and experience through the processes that Erasmus has in place. So mobilities, job shadowing, and study visits. I think these are really key, and we're more than open to facilitating colleagues from Ukraine, teachers and students, to come over and see what we do. We can organise a study visit for them, and we can show them our workshops, and they can meet our teachers. So we're really open to that, and we'd work very closely in solidarity with colleagues from Ukraine.
Thanks a lot, and I can only support what you have been saying also on our side. So Ukraine has joined very recently the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. They have been welcomed just a few weeks ago as a new member of the Alliance, bringing the number of member countries to 43. So indeed, we look forward to cooperating with you on this topic specific of this webinar, but also more broadly in the European Alliance for Apprenticeships, and really looking forward to the reconstruction works and the process starting soon, very soon, hopefully. Thank you very much. Now I would like to share, I need to conclude the webinar because we are running out of time. So thank you very much to the experts, to the panelists, those that were so kind to give us elevator pitches as well. I think we have seen during the webinar that, as Aidan has said it, there are no simple solutions, but all of the messages that have been shared by the speakers are very inspiring and show that something can be done in the right direction towards gender balance. In particular, we have heard it's not only a question of attracting girls and women to certain studies, but it is also very, very important to ensure that the difficulties in integrating on the labor market is also very important to tackle these difficulties to avoid that they drop out and they change their careers. So maybe just to close the webinar on my side, I would like to share a few information on what's coming up until the end of the year for the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. After the webinar today, we have two other interesting activities covered by the Alliance. One is a webinar on the 20th of November on adult apprenticeships. So we are moving away from the more traditional apprenticeships for young people, but looking also to support our members in developing apprenticeships for adults, because the apprenticeships can be very effective also for reintegrating adults and upskilling and reskilling them for the labor market. The second initiative that is coming up concerns higher apprenticeships. So also, as Aidan has been explaining, apprenticeships are not only at secondary level, they take place post-secondary vet, but also in higher education or in universities of applied science, technological universities. So we will have a fact sheet on this topic before the end of the year. And we have also launched this year a new community where the members of the EAFA can get together on discussing the topic of apprenticeships at higher level following secondary, so above secondary education. And this community, this is one of the communities that we have under the EAFA. You can find more information in the links that my colleagues will put or have put in the chat. And these communities are led by members of EAFA for the members of EAFA. I would like to remind you that the recording, the slides, and an article summarizing the rich discussions and exchanges that we have had today will be published on the website of the Alliance in the course of November. And then my last point, for not going too far beyond the time, is to thank you all very, very much for your participation. Thank you to Ecoris for hosting the webinar, and thank you to my colleague Tamas, Chiara, Beatrice, and Lotte for working with me on the European Alliance for Apprenticeship. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.